Today, we're going to address some important questions, like whether pickup truck drivers are actually more aggressive and idiotic than the average driver. What does this German word mean? What does the proliferation of these vehicles say about the urban rural divide in this country? And that's barely even the tip of the rapidly melting iceberg. If you thought I was done talking about pickup trucks on this channel, well, you're sadly mistaken. Let's set some context for those of you who are not up to speed on this whole saga. Way back in February 2022, when this channel was just starting out, I made a video about the insanity of pickup trucks, their ever-increasing size, the way they're marketed, the insane profit margins, the fact that they're almost always driven around empty. It wasn't my most viewed video ever, but it got, by far, the most comments and dislikes of any video I'd done to that point. So in July of that year, I went through every comment, and trust me, there were some extremely thoughtful ones, and I made a response video. I kinda assumed that would be the end of it, but that video got even more comments than the previous one, and even more views. So in March 2024, I decided to go through the comments of that video and try to dig deeper into the psychology of pickup truck guy. That should have been the end of it, and I remember releasing the video and kind of monitoring how it was performing. It was pretty middle of the road, so kind of figured that's the end of that. Well, recently I went back and looked, and now that video has more comments than any video I've ever done. So today we're going to look at the most entertaining, the most thought-provoking, and yes, the stupidest comments from that video, and sometimes they're all the same comment. And oh yeah, you know how I always say, keep the great topic suggestions coming? Well, it's applicable. So my general philosophy on YouTube comments is that they're not really there for me to read as much as they're there for you all to argue with each other. And how you personally decide to spend your precious days on Earth is a value judgment that only you can make. I prefer to spend as little time on it as humanly possible, but today is an exception. First, it would be pretty out of line not to look at the most upvoted comment, so here it is. Actually concedes that pickup trucks are macho and appealing. Can't even tell if they're being ironic. But they get terrible gas mileage, and then the owners complain about the cost of gasoline. Mind you, this comment is from 2 years ago, and you would think it's more relevant than ever, given what's going on with gas prices. But it seems pickup truck drivers' attitudes about the cost of living vary a lot depending on who's president. Previous installments in this series have focused on weird fixations on, like, cuckoldry and soy. I actually have an update on that. Like, this comment makes some pretty shocking claims about the phytoestrogen content of a beverage that I think has pretty broad popularity outside just pickup truck drivers. Trust but verify, of course, so let's go to the peer-reviewed research. From the paper, Flavonoids as phytoestrogenic components of hops and beer. Recently, interest in hops was raised due to hop prenylated flavonoids, which show extraordinary estrogen activities. There are numerous health benefits associated with their wide spectrum of biological activities, including estrogenic, with potential applications of these compounds such as an alternative to hormone replacement therapy. I'm shocked we've made it this far into the current administration without this one being wiped from the NIH.gov website. For those of you with more binary definitions of gender, just know that girls love trucks and they just can't help it. 95% chance this is from a pickup truck guy burner account. But this goes to a theme that runs through the comments on all of these videos, maybe more so this one, which is the extent to which owning an extremely large and stupid-looking vehicle is a strategy for coping with deep insecurity. People have all kinds of thoughts on this. Some of them are kind of amusing. A lot of them I'm not going to share because they're disgusting. And some of them just make me a little uncomfortable. Like, maybe I'm old school, but I just think this is an awkward conversation to be having with your mom. There were a lot of comments about how unnecessarily aggressive pickup truck drivers are, and it seems intuitively correct. I read about an experiment where someone set up fake animals near the side of the road to observe driver reaction, and the majority of the people who swerved to try to hit them for fun were driving big pickup trucks. Again, I had to research this one to try to find a primary source, maybe some peer-reviewed literature. Unfortunately, the source appears to be a video by YouTuber Mark Rober, which is highly entertaining, but I don't know that I'd include in my lit review. I actually didn't see anything to support the idea that pickup truck drivers are more aggressive than the average driver. There's this AAA study that says pickup truck drivers are perceived to be more aggressive, and people who see their vehicles as an extension of their personality were more likely to report high levels of aggressive driving, but it's not very definitive for my taste. But if we're going off anecdotes, guy who works at the gas station says pickup truck drivers are more likely to leave their engine running while filling up and more likely to have spillage issues. I think they're also more likely to comment their random grievances about bikes. You guys, if you're going to come into my comments, I really need you to just lock in and stay on topic. I think I've pointed out in other videos that unless it's literally a work vehicle, there are so few times a year when you'd actually ever need all that cargo space that you're better off just renting a truck when you need it. Like for me, that's probably less than once a year, and I've definitely biked to the U-Haul store and locked up for a few hours. This is kind of a function of living in a city though. You're never really more than walking or biking distance of anything you ever need. In a way, pickup truck ownership is emblematic of a whole philosophy of life. It's the idea that anything you might need to use even once a year, you have to own that thing. Meanwhile, the rest of us suckers are out here trying to cooperate with each other and share scarce resources. Clueless city folk, talking all that ish until you gotta call a buddy to help you move a dresser. Speaking of moving stuff, I must have had a bit about bed liners in the last video because it was a topic of discussion. When I was in my 20s, my girlfriend asked her dad if he could help us move some furniture with his huge-ass truck. He refused, insisting it would scuff the bed liner. The bed liner, my brother in Christ, the entire purpose of the bed liner is to get scuffed instead of the bed. In-law who won't lend out his truck to haul stuff, lives in a suburb, and does IT work. I just feel like, as a society, we've really lost the plot when it comes to moving cargo. Back in the 60s, my dad went to visit family in the old country. His grandfather just put his sheep in the back seat of his sedan when he had to move them. You know, if they made that an option on the Uber app, I'd pay extra. If you haven't guessed yet, this whole comment section was an absolute goldmine, and we haven't even gotten to the best stuff yet. Consider subscribing while you're here. I really don't read YouTube comments, but I do like interacting with you all on the apps. And I always respond on my Patreon, so consider supporting there if you're enjoying the content. Not everyone enjoys the content, unfortunately. I'm 6 minuets in, and frankly, you're off to a slow start. I'm not even mad. Staying tuned in for 6 minutes just means you're the median viewer. Congratulations on being utterly average, I guess. Honestly, I'm shocked this many people make it past 30 seconds once they hear me start talking. Maybe related, person says I should probably be posting on TikToko if I want quality engagement from pickup truck guy. You know, I've considered this, but short form vertical is just absolutely not in my bag. And I'm well aware that there are people who rip my content and post and monetize it over there, and that is extremely annoying. But alas, CityNerd Inc. does not have a legal department. While we're on inside baseball stuff, you might have noticed that at some point recently, a lot of the comments started including this weird hypertext with a magnifying glass, including magnifying glass. So when you see new data centers popping up in your neighborhood, just understand it's all to better the user experience. Translation algorithm, though, might not be quite dialed in yet. And there are people who will claim that I keep hitting this topic because it's some kind of infinite engagement glitch. I've actually been assured that comments and likes and dislikes don't get factored into the algorithm. I don't get paid on a per comment basis as much as I wish it were the case. On the contrary, it costs me valuable brain cells every time I open the comments section. Although it might be improving my repertoire of pickup truck nicknames. This guy even took the time to plead with his fellow truck enthusiasts to not give me the engagement. Don't dislike, don't comment, just click the don't recommend videos from this channel option and slowly back away. I actually respect the effort, but this is a bit like one moth telling all the other moths not to fly near the bug zapper thing right before they themselves fly straight into it. I mean, it probably took this person over 6 minutes to think through and write this comment, which just means they're well above the 50th percentile in viewer retention. So, by most metrics, psychoanalysis of Pickup Truck Guy was one of my most successful videos, but there are definitely people who just weren't having it. Fan of CityNerd, but this is petty and sort of weird in my opinion. You know, pettiness is integral to this channel's whole brand. I don't know what you think you've been watching this whole time. I'm disappointed, CityNerd, with the misleading title of the video. This was not a true psychoanalysis, etc. I expected more from you. I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. You clicked on a 15-minute video expecting a deep, rigorous scientific analysis of the psychology of pickup truck guys. Have you watched YouTube before? You need to do some research about why trucks and SUVs are popular. Just a tip for those of you who can't seem to help yourselves from commenting. Any comment that starts with the words "you need to" gets skipped over immediately, and it's almost always stuff I've covered in previous videos anyway. I honestly don't dwell on this stuff. There are just too many people who agree with what I'm saying, and it's really gratifying when it's the pickup truck drivers themselves. I drive a truck, I understand it doesn't make sense, but I enjoy it and I can afford it. I respect your opinions, and if I'm being honest, I do agree with a lot of your points. I used to get super tired of this whole anti-truck sentiment, then I realized I'm not the person y'all are angry at. I use my truck as a freaking truck. I hate these people too, hell yeah. Guy who points out that consumer preferences and purchasing habits result in manufacturers building trucks that are worse at the job of being trucks. Like, this is right on target, and a couple of the most interesting comments I got delved into this a bit. Ex-car salesman here. By far, the most important thing I learned is it's much easier to sell the image of a truck than to talk about actual numbers and practical considerations. Images like being successful, tough, and strong work surprisingly well. And somebody submitted this extremely long comment. I'll just tease out the key pieces, but it's actually very good and well written. I actually recommend you pause and read the whole thing. Person who worked at an ad agency says, automakers have an extensive style guide specifically made for truck buyers, and boy do they demand a fair bit of coddling and hand-holding for all their advertising messages. Beefy fonts, masculine copywriting that suggests hard work and utility, low-angle photography that exaggerates the beefy grille of the truck, shot from 5 inches off the ground rather than eye level, requirements that models are in their 30s, fit, with no beer bellies, and dressed like they're in construction. They all had to conform to a look or vibe of Caucasian, male, athletic, and very straight. Talent hired for voiceovers are cast with a slight blue-collar vibe and a rugged, manly tone. The comment goes on to talk about the much larger per-vehicle advertising budget and profit margins for pickup trucks, and how buyers are sold on all-terrain capabilities and fantasies of power, even while the owner's manual discourages off-road operation and urges caution on dangerous maneuvers like turning. As someone who is not an advertising guy, I do respect the craft, but a lot of this just seems awfully cynical. I want to say people in general are smarter and more rational than ad agencies give them credit for, especially the kinds of people who comment on my videos. But then again, I'm kind of naive, and it's probably why I'm not in advertising. Life moves on. I do still hear from lots of pickup truck owners, but now it's mostly people who repent of their misguided ways. People who aren't like those other pickup truck drivers. I'm an urbanist and I drive a pickup. I'm probably one of the few urbanists with a truck. When I'm done with my workday as a Wichita lineman, I'm taking public transit. Now, you might have thought I was joking about people being repentant. On the contrary, some of these people are, I think, closet urbanists who just haven't found their people yet. I'm a conservative Christian and a true car guy, but I've been getting into this stuff and it makes a lot of sense. It's just hard to talk about with my family and friends because they just don't see the world the same way. I just want you to know that the City Nerd community is here to support you on every step of your journey towards self actualization. There are still people who are mad that I have opinions and they couldn't help exposing themselves to those opinions. Person who thinks I'm condescending, you're just lucky I don't verbalize half the things I'm actually thinking. And I don't want to ban pickup trucks like some of my viewers do, but I also don't think it's that much to ask that people who drive big, inefficient, dangerous vehicles pay for all the externalities they're imposing on the rest of us. In the final analysis, people are just going to like the things they like. That's just the way the world is. But I do think it's important to make them feel bad if the things they like are stupid. Okay, let's wrap this up. The urban-rural divide is astounding. True, but I don't really think that's what's going on here. People driving trucks in rural areas, using them for the things trucks are actually built for, isn't really even worth commenting on. What I think we're really talking about is the divide between city people who accept that they live in a city and people who come to the city but insist on doing rural cosplay. And if my comments are any indication, non-pickup driving city dwellers and pickup driving country folks are pretty united in their disdain for these people. What I'm saying is, maybe this country isn't as divided as we think, and besides, I'm always skeptical about setting up rigid dichotomies. I live in a camper that gets towed by a truck because I reject both suburban rural and urban living. Nomadic living is the way to go. Now, that is enlightened. Stay tuned for my next video essay, Urbanism as Arbitrary Social Construct. You know, if we're really judging a person's level of self-actualization by the size of the vehicle they drive, then guess what? The people who take transit every day are the ones who are attaining true enlightenment. Whether it's a state-of-the-art automated metro or a humble 40-foot bus, transit riders are out here living their best life. There's actually a streaming show that takes this idea to its logical extreme, and it's Day Pass from Not Just Bikes creator Jason Slaughter. Day Pass asks a simple question: how much can you do and how much transit can you ride with a single transit day pass in a city in 24 hours? What I love about the show is it takes an entire genre of entertainment, the travel show, and filters it through the lens of public transit and Jason's humor and personality, and it ends up being an amazing and very refreshing combination that leaves you wanting more. Day Pass is exclusive to the Nebula platform, and it's a perfect example of what Nebula does so well. Jason's Not Just Bikes content always hits the spot, but teaming up with Nebula Studios on Day Pass opens up a whole world where you can tag along with him, geek out on cool cities, and most importantly, enjoy cool transit infrastructure vicariously. Nebula is very deep when it comes to great urban planning, engineering, and architecture content, but when you start exploring, you're going to find great creators in all kinds of different spaces like culture, politics, comedy, and much more. So subscribing on Nebula is a great way to support my channel and to get my content early and ad-free, but there's just an incredible variety of new content hitting the platform all the time, including a new season of Abolish Everything, which, if you haven't seen it yet, it's like going to a comedy club to watch the platonic ideal of a PowerPoint party. Honestly, practically worth subscribing to Nebula all by itself. And if you're a Tom Scott fan, his new stuff hits Nebula first. If you're a Downey Live fan, you're not going to believe how much great content you'll find here. Because yes, Nebula is kind of like Netflix for people who have a slightly worrisome obsession with trains, but it's a lot more. It's a home base for content that's a little more thoughtful, that's created by humans for humans, which is becoming more and more important. And there's a pretty big idea behind all of it: raising the level of the entire platform and growing it into a prestige streaming service. So if you use my custom link down the description or the QR code right here on screen, you're gonna get the best deal. all the Nebula content for 50% off the regular price when you sign up for an annual subscription. Or you can do a lifetime subscription. Regular price is currently $500, but with my creator link, it's just $300. You pay once and you get Nebula for as long as both you and Nebula exist. Nebula subscribers also get guest passes, 1 every month or 3 per quarter if you're on annual or lifetime. Once active, guests can binge all the Nebula content they want for a week and no payment info is required. Again, use my link or the QR code right here to get Nebula for 50% off the annual price or $300 for the lifetime deal. It's nebula.tv/CityNerd, and then go check out Jason Slaughter's Day Pass, Episode 1, right now. And that's all I've got. Thanks for joining today, and thanks as always to the patrons for your direct support, which may be needed to hire a security detail next time I go to a monster truck rally. Thanks to the Nebula subs as well. Keep the great topic suggestions coming. I'll be back with a new episode next week, I think, and I'll see you then.